We usually think of our emotions like a dashboard in a car.
Right.
You sit in the driver's seat, you look at the dials, the sliders, and, well, the assumption is that you are the one operating the machinery.
Which makes sense. It's a very comforting illusion of control.
Exactly. I mean, you feel angry, you tell yourself to calm down, you feel anxious, you try to, logic your way out of it.
We desperately want to believe we are the rational masters of our psychological domain,
Yeah, we want to believe our intellect is completely in charge of our feelings.
but the reality is quite different.
It really is. Because when you look at the actual biology of human stress, suddenly you realize you aren't in the driver's seat at all.
Not even a little bit.
You are firmly strapped into the passenger seat, and the vehicle is being driven by this prehistoric autopilot that you can't even communicate with.
Which is actually the perfect framework for what we are exploring for you today.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are pulling from a fascinating excerpt today. It's Chapter 4, titled Emotion Zones, from the book The Science of Meditation.
It's a really eye-opening read.
It is. And our goal for you today is to uncover the biological cheat code to human emotions.
We're going to figure out why a modern life makes you feel like you are constantly running from wild animals.
And more importantly, what you can actually do to turn that feeling off.
Because the core revelation from this text, the concept that completely flips the script, is that the traditional idea of emotion management is fundamentally backwards.
Wait, backwards? How so?
Well, the true way to control how you feel isn't by reasoning with your mind. It actually involves literally tricking your own nervous system.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to solve the problem of your everyday, low-grade modern anxiety, we first need to understand the beast that's causing it.
And the source material makes a really bold claim right out of the gate.
Yeah, it says your anxiety is not in your mind, it is entirely in your body.
Right, which is a massive paradigm shift. The standard assumption is that an event happens, our conscious brain evaluates it, and then our body reacts.
But the biology shows the sequence is reversed.
Exactly. The event occurs, your body reacts instantly, and the emotion you feel is just your conscious brain scrambling to interpret those physical changes.
The book paints this incredibly vivid picture to explain the mechanics here. Imagine you are a primitive human being walking through a dense jungle.
A classic evolutionary scenario.
Right. Suddenly, a huge beast jumps out of the underbrush. Your brain simply does not have the processing speed to sit there and ponder the situation.
You definitely don't have time to think, what species is this? Is it aggressive?
Exactly. If you took the precious seconds required to logic that out, well, you would be lunch.
Your conscious mind is incredibly sophisticated, but it is far too slow for immediate survival.
So before your brain even figures out what is happening, your physical body takes over in a split second.
It just acts.
Your pulse quickens to pump blood to your extremities. Your breathing becomes shallow to take in oxygen fast.
Your pupils dilate so you can see the threat clearly.
And your adrenal glands dump a massive spike of adrenaline into your bloodstream. You are instantly mechanically primed to survive.
And honestly, that biological response is flawlessly designed. It is a masterpiece of evolution.
It's exactly what you need to survive a life or death encounter. But there's a glitch, right?
Yeah, the glitch in the system arises when we consider false alarms.
Right.
Let's say that rustling in the bushes wasn't a beast at all. It was just your buddy from a neighboring tribe coming over to say hello.
So you realize it's just Dave from the cave next door. But your heart is still pounding out of your chest.
Because the chemical cascade has already been released. You consciously know you are safe, but your body is still fully prepped for fight or flight.
That adrenaline doesn't just evaporate because you recognized your friend.
No, it doesn't. Enzymes in your blood have to physically break down those stress hormones. And it takes significant time for the body to return to a baseline state.
So if we bring that biological reality into the present day, I mean, most of us aren't dodging saber-toothed tigers anymore.
No, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, that evolutionary beast still lurks inside our biology.
And it jumps out to frighten you at every single turn. Only today, the beasts wear totally different masks.
Very different mask.
They look like a massive traffic jam when you're already 10 minutes late for a crucial meeting. Or, a frustrating string of passive-aggressive emails.
Or seeing your kids staring at a video game when they haven't even opened their homework.
Yes. Or scrolling through social media. The source actually lists these modern triggers, like politics, COVID-19, childcare, climate change.
The environment has transformed at warp speed, but our biology hasn't updated its software in tens of thousands of years.
So regardless of the trigger, your physical response is identical to facing a prehistoric predator.
We are essentially a bunch of freak-out primitives trapped in a perpetual state of fight or flight, just walking around grocery stores.
Which explains this absolutely staggering statistic from the text. Anxiety is the most common mental illness in the world, affecting nearly 20% of the population in some countries.
It's incredible.
It's like having a top-of-the-line car alarm, but the sensitivity dial is cranked up so incredibly high that a gentle breeze sets it off.
That is a perfect analogy.
And to make matters worse, there is no button on your key fob to mute it. You just have to sit there while the siren blares in your chest.
Because the alarm itself isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was engineered to do. It's just reacting to the wrong stimuli.
And because those physical reactions, the racing heart, the shallow breath, are the root of the emotion, you can't just talk yourself out of it.
You really can't logic away a chemical in your blood.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If emotions are just strict chemical and physical states, we shouldn't be using messy words like anger or happiness.
Right, instead of relying on subjective language, we can map them out using physiology.
And the source uses a brilliant simplification to help us map this out. Let's look at just one variable, which is your heart rate.
Just using heart rate, the text divides the body's physical state into 3 distinct zones.
First, you have the comfort zone, which is your normal resting heart rate, roughly 60 to 80 beats per minute.
Then when the beast jumps out or someone cuts you off on the highway, you spike into the danger zone.
Which is 80 to 120 beats per minute.
And finally, you have the sleep zone. That is that deep state of rest where your heart rate drops down to 50 to 60 beats per minute.
There is a massive paradox with this sleep zone, right?
There is. Under normal circumstances, when your heart rate drops that low and you fall asleep, you lose consciousness.
So you don't actually experience any emotions because you aren't awake to feel them.
People often counter that by pointing to their dreams,
Yeah.
saying they feel fear or joy while dreaming.
Oh, true. What about dreams?
The source clarifies that too. About 80% of dreams occur during REM sleep.
Rapid eye movement sleep.
Exactly. And REM only makes up about 20 to 25% of total sleep for an adult. We're talking maybe 90 to 120 minutes a night.
And your heart rate actually fluctuates during REM, doesn't it?
It does. So for the vast majority of your deep, restorative, low heart rate sleep, you are essentially emotionless.
So the sleep zone of conscious emotion doesn't naturally exist in the human experience.
Not naturally, no. Unless you find a way to hack the system.
You have to force the biology into an unnatural state, and this is where meditation comes in.
Exactly. Meditation is the biological hack.
It's specifically designed to let your physical body fall asleep, dropping into that 50 to 60 BPM zone while forcing your conscious mind to remain completely awake.
And when you successfully do that, you experience an entirely new emotion.
An emotion that most people walking around in constant modern stress have literally never felt.
The source notes there isn't even one universally agreed upon word for it. People call it calmness, serenity, emptiness.
I'm stuck on something here, though. I want to push back on this a bit.
Sure, go ahead.
If this is just a mechanical process, lowering the heart rate while staying awake, why is it so incredibly hard to replicate?
That's a great question.
Like, why does my experience trying to meditate feel totally different from yours? Or even different for me from a Tuesday to a Thursday?
Well, remember that heart rate is just a one-dimensional simplification.
Okay.
Think about it geographically.
Mm-hmm.
If heart rate is a simple line, you just move back and forth on that line. But your body isn't a single line.
Right.
Add a second variable, like blood pressure. Now that line becomes a two-dimensional grid.
An emotion area.
Exactly. Now add your respiratory rate. Suddenly, you are in a three-dimensional emotion space.
And the body has countless overlapping variables running all the time.
Add N variables to that map. Add your current cortisol levels, your blood sugar, because you skipped breakfast, your muscle tension.
The caffeine from my morning coffee.
Yes. You create this massive, incredibly complex N-dimensional emotion space. And, crucially, there's no map or GPS for it.
So when you sit down to meditate, you aren't just lowering your heart rate. You're wandering into this vast, unique physiological landscape every single time.
Which perfectly explains why meditation is a highly individualized experience. You are navigating an ever-shifting chemical terrain.
Okay, so if our biology dictates that we are either practically comatose in the sleep zone or freaking out in the danger zone, How do any of us actually get anything done?
There has to be a functional middle ground, right?
Yeah, if we just bounce between boredom and panic all day.
The source identifies that space as the optimal performance zone. Psychologists often refer to it as the flow zone.
And this sits right on the razor-thin border between comfort and danger.
What's fascinating here is that the source points out a really counterintuitive fact. Moderate anxiety actually improves your performance.
Wait, really? We are so conditioned to think of anxiety as strictly a bad thing.
I know, but as your anxiety increases from a baseline of 0, your performance actually goes up. Your senses sharpen.
You become more alert, and you hit this optimal peak. Let's look at the biology of why that happens.
When you experience moderate anxiety, your body releases a small, controlled dose of adrenaline.
And that adrenaline physically dilates your pupils, which literally narrows your field of vision.
It forces you to focus on what is right in front of you while blurring out peripheral distractions.
It even heightens your auditory processing for immediate threats, but tunes out background noise. It's like a biological cocktail of slight panic that forces hyperfixation.
And when you are in that flow zone, the text says your body just moves automatically, time dilates, hours feel like minutes.
You get so hyper-focused that you become completely insensitive to internal feelings like hunger or your phone vibrating on the desk.
Think about a stressful school exam.
Oh yeah, the stress is the anxiety pushing you into the zone. Suddenly you're so engrossed in the math problem you don't even hear the clock ticking.
That deep biological concentration leads to a great result.
There is this fantastic quote from Bruce Lee in the source material. He said, "The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus."
I love that quote. It's not about having some magical superpower. It's entirely about navigating out of the comfort zone and into flow.
But the catch is the fragility of that state.
Very fragile. If the anxiety continues to increase past that optimal point, your performance falls off a cliff.
Right. Like if you realize you only have 5 minutes left on that exam, the adrenaline overwhelms the system and you cross into the danger zone.
You freeze up. The difference between mediocrity and genius is staying in that flow state without tipping over into danger.
Which is immensely difficult, especially in a modern environment designed to distract us.
An athlete has a single point of focus. An office worker has 15 open browser tabs, a ringing phone, and a looming deadline.
I am frustrated by this setup, honestly.
How so?
Well, if being in the flow zone makes us brilliant and the sleep zone makes us completely peaceful, I want to go to those zones right now. Why is it so incredibly hard to just switch gears?
To understand why you are locked out of your own control room, we have to look at the wiring of the human machine.
Okay, lay it on me.
The nervous system is strictly divided into two completely separate categories. First, you have the somatic, or animal nerves.
These are the nerves that your conscious mind directly controls, right?
Exactly. You want to raise your hand, your conscious mind tells your animal nerves to move those muscles, and your hand goes up.
That is the steering wheel we think we have for everything.
But then you have the autonomic, or vegetative nerves. These govern the automatic processes of your body.
Your heartbeat, your digestion, your pupil dilation.
And crucially, these nerves are entirely outside the control of your conscious mind.
And this autonomic system is split into two competing halves. The source compares them to the gas pedal and the brake pedal of a car.
Yes. You have the sympathetic nerves. That is the gas pedal. That's your fight or flight system.
When the gas is pressed, your heartbeat rapid fires, you sweat, your pupils dilate. You are thrust into the danger zone.
On the other side, you have the parasympathetic nerves, the brake pedal.
So when these are stimulated, your heartbeat slows down, your digestion fires up, and you produce fluids like saliva and tears.
This drops you into the rest zone.
So trying to order yourself to calm down when you're anxious is literally like yelling at your stomach to digest your lunch faster.
That's exactly it. You simply do not have the administrative access to do that.
Your conscious mind cannot speak directly to the vegetative nerves.
The source uses a brilliant example to illustrate this division of power. It compares children crying to method actors crying.
Oh, this was wild. If you've ever seen a kid throwing a tantrum for a toy, they are wailing, their faces scrunched up.
They're making a ton of noise.
But there's absolutely no moisture, no tears at all.
Right, because vocal cords and facial expressions are controlled by the somatic animal nerves.
The child can consciously command their face to look sad.
But actual tear production is controlled by the autonomic vegetative nerves. The child's conscious mind simply cannot force the tear ducts to open.
Contrast that with a method actor on a movie set. The director yells action, and the actor produces real, streaming tears on command.
How do they do that if they don't have access to those specific nerves?
They use a biological loophole. A roundabout strategy.
Exactly. The actor doesn't stand there commanding their eyes to water. Instead, they use their conscious mind to vividly recall a devastatingly sad memory.
Or they silently sing a desolate song in their head. They use the conscious mind to simulate an emotional environment.
And that mental simulation tricks the unconscious brain into stimulating the parasympathetic nerves.
Which then hits the brake pedal and produces the tears. You cannot change emotions directly.
So what does this all mean? How do we use this biological loophole to our advantage?
This brings us right back to our deep dive mission. If we are trapped in these anxious bodies, how do we survive our daily lives?
It means we have to completely rethink how we handle stress. The source points out a really hard truth about popular emotion management books.
Oh, right. If you buy one of those books, you are almost certainly buying a behavior management book.
Exactly. They tell you to take a deep breath
Yeah.
and use your rational brain to stop yourself from sending an angry email.
They teach you how to control your outward actions while you are actively experiencing the emotion.
But they don't teach you how to change the internal emotion itself. True emotion management means doing absolutely nothing.
Doing nothing. That is so violently hard for us to accept. We live in a society that praises muscling through our problems.
We valorize grit. If you are anxious, you're supposed to fight it, power through it, go for a run.
But biology strictly dictates that fighting it, pacing around the room, engaging your muscles, only keeps the sympathetic nervous system engaged.
By moving around and stressing, you are continually sending signals to your brain that the tiger is still chasing you.
You are keeping your foot on the gas pedal, which is why meditation is the ultimate roundabout strategy.
You aren't forcing your mind to be calm. You are sitting perfectly still, doing absolutely nothing.
Which physically mimics the act of sleeping. You are tricking your unconscious brain.
You are sending it a physiological signal saying, hey, the muscles are entirely offline. We must be safe.
We must be going to sleep. And the unconscious brain observes that stillness, shuts down the animal nerves, and presses the parasympathetic brake.
It forces you into the rest zone. Giving up mental participation and tricking the body is the only scientifically viable way to achieve true emotional serenity.
Bringing this directly to you, the listener. The next time you are stuck in a gridlock traffic jam, or you read a social media post that makes your blood physically boil,
Remember that you are just a primitive human reacting to a bush rustling.
that adrenaline spike is a biological fact. You cannot logic your way out of that anxiety.
But you can trick your body into turning off the alarm.
As we wrap up this deep dive, the text leaves us with a truly fascinating thought to ponder.
It really does. If our bodies are these perfectly adapted survival machines, and we have to literally trick our autonomic nervous system into resting just to survive modern life, it makes you wonder.
Wonder what exactly?
How many other physical illnesses or stress responses that we constantly try to medicate away are actually just perfectly healthy evolutionary responses?
To a completely unnatural modern environment.
Are our bodies actually sick? Or is the modern world just one giant inescapable jungle of false alarms?
That is something to sit with. Maybe next time you feel the panic rising, don't try to wrestle with the steering wheel. Just step out, sit perfectly still, and let the engine cool down on its own. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.